During the Middle Ages, people in Western Europe engaged in the practice of hunting wild animals. Although there were times when the game was an essential source of food, it was not typically the primary source of sustenance. In today's video, we will talk about the history of hunting in ancient Britain. Hunting was a need for all social levels during the early Middle Ages, but by the High Middle Ages, it had evolved into a more leisurely activity associated with the upper classes. In addition to being a recreational activity, it served as a crucial setting for social contact, an essential kind of preparation for battle, a privilege, and a gauge of nobility. Since the beginning of recorded history, people all across the world have engaged in a variety of forms of fox hunting. The use of dogs with an acute sense of smell to track down prey can be traced back to ancient Egypt, as can the practice in many countries that were influenced by the Greeks and Romans. However, it is believed that the custom of a fox being tracked, chased, and often killed by trained hunting hounds, generally those with the keenest sense of smell known as scent hounds, and followed by the master of the foxhounds and his team on foot and horseback, originated from a Norfolk farmer's attempt to catch a fox using farm dogs in the year 1534. This attempt took place in Norfolk, England. Although foxes were commonly considered to be pests, and farmers and other landowners had hunted the animals for many years as a form of pest control, both to curb their attacks on farm animals and for their highly prized fur, it wasn't until the 18th century that fox hunting developed into its most modern incarnation and was considered a sport in its own right as a result of the decline in the UK's deer population. Fox hunting is now a popular spectator sport in many. The Enclosure Acts that were passed between 1750 and 1860, particularly the Enclosure Consolidation Act of 1801, which was passed to clarify earlier acts of enclosure, are largely responsible for the decline in the deer population as well as the subsequent decline in the sport of deer hunting, which is also known as stalking. Stalking is another name for this type of hunting. Because of these statutes, open fields and common property, both of which were popular breeding grounds for deer, were partitioned off into several smaller fields so that farmers could meet the rising demand for space to cultivate their crops. The beginning of the Industrial Revolution saw the construction of new roads, railways, and canals, all of which further decreased the amount of rural land in the United Kingdom. On the other hand, thanks to these improvements in transport links, fox hunting became more popular and was more easily accessible to people who lived in towns and cities but aspired to live the life of a country gentleman. During the 17th century, foxes and hares became the preferred quarry for hunters who had previously pursued deer, which required extensive stretches of unobstructed terrain. As a result, packs of hounds were specifically taught to chase these animals. The Bilsdale Hunt in Yorkshire is England's oldest fox hunt, and it is still in operation to this day. It was founded in 1668 by George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, and it is located in Yorkshire. Hugo Mennel, often referred to as the father of modern fox hunting, was only 18 years old when he began breeding hunting dogs at his estate in North Leicestershire, Quarndon Hall, in 1753. These dogs were bred for their speed, stamina, and keen scent in addition to their keen nose. The sport continued to grow in popularity throughout the 17th and 18th centuries. Not only did the speed of his pack make for a more exciting and prolonged hunt, but it also meant that the hunt could begin later in the morning. This made the hunt extremely popular among the young gentlemen in his social circle who were accustomed to staying up late. The sport of fox hunting continued to gain popularity all during the 19th century, particularly as a result of the Great British Railway's expansion into more rural areas, which allowed more people to travel to more remote areas. Even though the sport was outlawed in Germany and several other European countries beginning in 1934, fox hunting continued to be a popular activity in the United Kingdom well into the 21st century. There was a lack of foxes in England, which led to a desire for foxes to be brought from other countries such as France, Germany, Holland, and Sweden. However, in modern times, fox hunting in the United Kingdom is arguably better recognized for the contentious debates that take place between supporters of the sport and those who are opposed to it. The debate between hunters and anti-hunting campaigners, who believe the sport to be cruel and unnecessary, ultimately led to a government inquiry into hunting with dogs in December 1999. The inquiry was named the Burns Inquiry after the retired civil servant Lord Burns, who chaired the inquiry. The inquiry was named after Lord Burns because he was the person who chaired the inquiry. Although the conclusion of the Burns inquiry stated that hunting with dogs significantly undermines the welfare of foxes, it did not indicate unequivocally whether or not hunting ought to be permanently outlawed in the UK. As a result of the research, the government decided to present a bill known as an options bill, which would allow each House of Parliament to determine for itself whether the sport should be outlawed, subject to licensed hunting, or subject to a self-regulation. The House of Commons decided to outlaw the sport, but the House of Lords favored allowing participants to self-regulate their behavior. The subsequent Hunting Act 2004, which was passed in November 2004, resulted in the outlawing of any form of hunting with dogs in England and Wales as of the 18th of February 2005. This was the case even though the sport is still going strong in many parts of the world, such as Australia, Canada, France, India, and Russia. The Scottish Parliament had already banned fox hunting in Scotland in 2002, and in Northern Ireland, the sport is still legal. However, this is not the end of the debates that have been held over the sport. On the other hand, despite the prohibition, hunts have witnessed a rise in membership, and the Masters of Foxhounds Association (MFHA) currently represents 176 active foxhound packs in England and Wales, in addition to 10 in Scotland. And even though the proposed amendment to the Hunting Act of 2004 to permit licensed hunting was rejected, despite the support of former Prime Minister Tony Blair and Lord Burns himself, numerous anti-hunting campaigners have complained that countless hunts have disregarded the ban and illegally continued hunting with hounds, while the hunts have maintained that they follow artificially laid trails. It is impossible to deny the sport's influence on popular culture, no matter what your thoughts are on it, and there are a lot of them. For example, the title Chief Whip is bestowed upon the Member of Parliament, MP, whose responsibility is to keep the Prime Minister apprised of any backbench revolts and general party opinions and to make certain that party members adhere to the party line. This title is derived from the role of the whipper, who is tasked with the responsibility of keeping the hounds under control during a hunt. The practice of smearing ceremonial blood on the cheeks of a new member of a clan or society, which is depicted in several books and films, also has its origins in the sport. The act of blooding, which was introduced by King James I in the 16th century, involved the huntsmaster rubbing the blood of the prey onto the cheeks of a newly initiated member of the hunt. This ritual is depicted in several books and films. So this is the end of our video. Do you feel it helpful? Post your valuable response in our comments section below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos.